David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a new pen from the Russian brand Benu. Benu has made a name for themselves by producing some rather unique pens, and what we'll look at today is no exception. That pen is the Benu Tattoo. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Benu Tattoo, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Benu for providing this pen for review. The Tattoo arrives in this simple box. The pen is inside in this little paper pouch. There is some use and care instructions in here. And then I've always liked this, the pen kind of sits on this bed of shredded paper. I've always kind of liked this packaging concept because it really protects the pen. Like I had mentioned, Benu is based in Russia, in Moscow to be specific. And so the pen needs to travel quite a bit to get over here in the US. And then inside this sleeve is the pen. This is the Benu Tattoo. A couple things right off the start. The pen is made from black resin and is rather large. Lately, Benu has been producing a number of small and medium-sized pens, so it's nice to see them mix things up a bit with a larger pen. Now, Benu is not necessarily known for their subtle designs. They typically produce things with interesting colors and acrylics with lots of depth and chatoyance and glitter. And while this pen doesn't have much in the way of chatoyance and glitter, it does have its fair share of flair. It is definitely not subtle. As you could deduce from the name of this pen, the design incorporates a number of common tattoo tropes. The pen has a black acrylic resin base, and then the tattoo patterns are raised and outlined in gray, accentuating the patterns in negative space. The tattoo is available in a number of colors. There is a black, green, blue, red, yellow, and the aforementioned gray. I find this to be more of a silverish gray. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. The end of the cap is slightly rounded and adorned with a sparrow, which is a very common tattoo design that historically has symbolized a number of different things. One example is that during World War II, a sailor would earn a sparrow tattoo when they had traveled 5,000 nautical miles. Next up, there is a band with some stars and then also a pair of dice. There is a rather wide stainless steel band, and then we have the clip. It is also stainless steel. I like the clip design. It's simplistic, but I feel it fits in well with the overall look of the pen. You can operate the clip by placing a little pressure on the back of it. The front will raise a bit to ease its use. I like that design element. On the center section of the barrel, there are a couple of roses and a nautical star and a sun. I like how the clip is lined up with the sun. It helps create a little order to a pen where there's a lot going on. And then we have another smaller stainless steel band, and in lieu of a traditional cap, the company name Benu is incorporated into a traditional waving ribbon. There is a rounded step down to the barrel where the tattoo motif continues. There is a snake, some more roses, a skull, and some flames. The barrel angles down to a very long post. The end of the barrel is encircled by stars, and then the very end is slightly rounded. I will say that typically I'm not a fan of pens incorporating long posts like this, but this one really doesn't bother me. I think it's partially due to the black resin, which really helps camouflage the transition and the skinnier post. The cap unscrews to reveal something else I like about this pen, which is the number 6 nib. I find this nib to be size appropriate for this pen. Most other Benu pens have smaller nibs. This nib is made by Schmidt and is available in fine, medium, and broad. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a bit of a flare, and I find the resin really enables me to maintain a solid grip on the pen. The section angles up a bit until it meets the cap threads, which I don't find to be sharp at all. There is a small gap, and then we have an angled step up to the emblazoned portion of the barrel. The cap does post, and it does post deeply and securely. However, I do feel that posting this pen adds a considerable length, as well as backweighting the pen and really throwing off the balance. I find it to be a bit unwieldy posted. And then when using it when posted, my hand has a tendency to fatigue rather quickly. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges, both long and short, and a converter is provided. The Benu Tattoo will retail for $190 and will be available through a number of retailers. Last time I had checked, it wasn't widely available quite yet, but you should begin seeing the Tattoo appear at your Benu retailer of choice fairly soon. I do feel that Benu creates a number of very polarizing pens. For this one, if you're into tattoos, then this design really has a better chance of appealing to you. I do like the size and the weight and the feel of the Benu Tattoo. And I find the design to be interesting and cohesive. I've seen it on other pens with the same basic design element of a bunch of different images, and in most cases, I've found the images don't necessarily gel together and look good together. Those pens have a tendency to kind of look like someone just randomly slapped the images haphazardly on the pen. Oh, let's rotate this one and rotate this one. I feel like at least this imagery on this pen relates well to one another, and the placement of the images feels intentional. Okay, so now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Benu Tattoo. Here it is with a Lamy Safari. Here it is with a TWSBI VAX 700. And here it is with a Kaweco Skyline Sport. And then in regard to a couple of other pens, here it is with a Pilot Metro and a Diplomat Aero. And then finally, something brand new that just hit the market that I'll be reviewing very soon, which is a very special Visconti Rainbow Watermark, or Watermark Rainbow. Just the colors on this pen are amazing. And just as a sneak preview, take a look at this section and the colors that you can see here on the nib. This thing is just spectacular. So look for a review of that coming very soon. And here's what it looks like in comparison to the Benu. So here we have the Benu Tattoo. And this is a medium steel nib. And the ink that I'm using today is Sailor 123. This is a very special ink. This is part of Sailor's Ink Studio. These are inks that are only available through select retailers, and that you could find it through Anderson's Pens, which is where I received this, and that they can only physically sell them in the store. But you can physically call up the store and order them, and then they can ship them to you. There's a number of different colors. This one is a gray with some purplish undertones. It's just an amazing color. In regard to some comparisons, this is what it looks like next to a Krishna pencil. And then here it is with an Irisuzuki Kurosame. This is a really interesting ink. You could tell here, this is just when I was cleaning off the nib after inking it up, that it's a gray, but it has some purplish and some green and yellow undertones. I've just never quite seen a tissue like this look like this after wiping off a gray ink. It's just amazing. On a side note, I did have a chance to go up to Chicago a couple of weeks ago and visit the Anderson's pen location at the Palmer House. If you're ever in the area, I would highly recommend it. It's a very cool store and a very cool hotel, and very much well worth the trip. Okay, so on with the rest of the writing sample. that even though it's a gray ink, you could see that it ends up showing up a little bit darker on the page than it does on the swab, and that it does have a decent amount of shading and can be a little bit dark here. In regard to the ink flow on this pen, I find that the Schmidt nib does a decent job with that. And in regard to reversed writing, it lies down a rather weak line, but the flow is nice on it. And in regard to fast writing, I haven't had any issues with this feed keeping up at all. So there you have the Benu Tattoo, another interesting pen in the Benu lineup. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.